This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity Podcast. As always, please feel free to contact me at 773-766-5322. Text me with any comments, questions, issues, etc. Positive, negative, whatever it is. Love to hear your thoughts. Here are 17 stories that we're following to this morning, today, September 29th, 2023. And I won't even talk about the government shutdown possibilities, because that has the ability to impact a lot of things as well, particularly how long that lasts and how transient that gets. But the 17 stories we're following today is the markets are pointing up today, though not as much as they were early today, based on essentially inflation data released today that showed signs of slowing of inflation. Thank goodness. The markets were also slightly up yesterday, and this comes after a relatively bad week in the market this past 7 days or so. Oil does remain elevated at $93 a barrel. Second, the NASDAQ, notwithstanding a couple rough weeks, remains up nearly 35% year to date. Third, the S&P has given up some of its year-to-date gains. It's up 12% after at one point being up almost 18% or so year-to-date. So that's moving a little bit in the wrong direction. The fourth story that we're following this morning is there's a great piece in CNN Business about the potential Kaiser Permanente strike. 75,000 healthcare workers looking at potentially striking October 4th to 7th. That's a big issue. The fifth story we'll talk about is sort of this discussion of the reemergence of strikes. And this is a fascinating situation. We've got relatively low unemployment, a lot of need for workers, but also companies trying to move towards automation. So you've got this sort of, I don't know if it's a last gasp of union efforts or serious union efforts, but you got the UAW strike. You've got strikes like we've not seen in nearly, since my memory, since the 1970s, in this level of strikes going on. The Screen Actors Guild and the writer strike, that was just solved. And part of this is the complexity in changing of the world. The downside to striking is the harder that there are strikes, the harder it is to work with labor, the more that companies look for technological ways around that, automation ways around it. So it looks like a very complicated issue in terms of how this all goes. The sixth story we're following today, Peloton, the bike people, they're down 38% year to date. I finally did get back on our Peloton the other day when it was raining. That seemed to have zero impact on the stock price. Seventh, NVIDIA remains up 195%. A heck of a year. It's given back 8% of the last month, but still up 195%. Tesla itself, our A store, remains up 100% year to date. Amazing. Apple, ninth, remains up 31% year to date. Its market cap has fallen to $2.67 trillion after having surpassed 3.1 to 3.2 trillion. So it's given back a little bit, but still way, way up. 10th, Microsoft is also up essentially 31% year to date. Its market cap has fallen back to 2.33 trillion, but obviously still in great shape. 11th, Amazon's up 50% year to date. Amazon's about to have this huge fight with the FTC over antitrust allegations. This will be a little bit like watching Ali Frazier, if you remember the old days of great heavyweight boxing. So it should be interesting to watch. 12th, United Healthcare is doing laps around its competitors. It's down 4% year to date, but it's lapping its competitors, particularly in this issue of accumulating physicians. It now has 70,000 physicians employed, the largest of any employer in the country. And that's about the most scarce resource in healthcare is physicians. So, whether you like United Healthcare, if you don't like United Healthcare, kudos to them for what they've done from a business perspective. 13th, one of their competitors, CVS Health, is now down 25% year to date. As it itself tries to figure out its provider strategy, it's got this great payer business, this great retail business, but is not there in terms of the provider strategy yet, or at least not double down on it like Optum did. And someone has been trying to double down on it. There's just not enough physicians to go around for all these people that are trying to double down on accumulating physicians. 14th, I'm watching BlackRock and Larry Rock. Larry's been the most ardent capitalist for a very long time. Larry Fink at BlackRock has been the most ardent capitalist for so long. Spent the last few years touting ESG stuff, realized that that's not working with his constituents, and now he's pivoted away from talking about ESG stuff. I actually find it fascinating in a million different ways. 15th, Great in Smart Asset. 10% of Americans have 1 million or more saved for retirement. The average for 65 to 74 years old, 65 to 75, is $426,000. The medium is a lot less than that. So half people have 164,000 or more, half don't. Smart Asset has a story. We bet you can't actually guess how many Americans actually retire with $1 million. We can't guess how many we bet you can't guess how many Americans actually retire with $1 million. 16th, thrilled to give the keynote address at the BOMA conference in Orlando this next March, May, a fantastic conference. We're invited by the people at Physician Realty Trust to do that. Kudos to John Thomas, Mark Thane, Emmy Hall, and the company that they've built. Simply fantastic. We're always honored to give keynote talks, so thank you so much for inviting me and the privilege of doing that. Next, thrilled yesterday to moderate a panel at the McGuire Woods Charlotte Healthcare Finance and Growth Conference. What an amazing event. Again, these are 17 stories that we're following today, but just fantastic. Also, shout out to Todd Dunn, to Zev Neuwirth, Dr. Nisha Mehta, the founder of Physician Side Gigs, Bart Walker, Kayla Marty for organizing such a magnificent event. Again, thank you for listening to the Becker Private Equity Update, and thank you to our producer, Chanel Bunger. Anytime you have questions, issues, thoughts, again, this is 17 stories to watch today. Feel free to text me at 773-766-5322. Thank you very much.